Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The Funeral Without a Body. Rain hit the coffin like it had something to say. Black umbrellas covered the cemetery like roaches clinging to the dead. A row of polished shoes stood along the grave's edge. They were dressed in grief, but not all of them wore it right. A man in a gray designer suit leaned in to whisper something to the woman next to him, a woman in a tight black dress with dry eyes and too much perfume. She laughed. Quiet. Cold. That was Brielle, his wife. She wiped an invisible tear and reached for the hand of Logan Harwood, the CEO's golden boy. Her new man. The one with the private jets and platinum card. The one who was already wearing his watch. Not one person noticed the car parked at the edge of the cemetery. Windows tinted. Engine off. A man inside with his hand gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles had gone white. Cody Weller watched his own funeral. He watched his wife lean into another man's chest like she belonged there. He watched his accident turn into a celebration for the people who profited from it. And then he heard the voice. "But Daddy's not dead," said a small girl behind the crowd. A child's voice. Curious, not sad. Cody's eyes locked on her brown hair, yellow dress, holding a drawing in her tiny hands. A security guard stepped forward, trying to hush her, but she held up the drawing. Crayon sketched, a man in a car. Flames behind. A face that looked like his. "I saw him," she said. "He called me last night." Cody didn't move. Not yet. But something inside him cracked open, and it wasn't grief. It was fire. 3 months earlier, the report said Cody Weller died on impact. That was a lie. He'd survived the crash, but barely. The hospital upstate had no ID on him, no family contact. Head trauma, broken ribs, burn damage. They listed him as John Doe and moved him to a quiet recovery ward when no one came looking. No press, no wife, no search, like he'd never existed. He woke to a blurry ceiling and the faint smell of bleach. His voice came back before his memory. Then the memory came back like a punch to the chest. The road, the brakes, the scream, then black. By the time Cody could walk again, the news had moved on. He sat in a wheelchair staring at a dusty TV in the corner of the rehab room, the volume low. A news anchor smiled into the camera. Logan Harwood, heir to the Harwood Empire, steps into new leadership role at Kingsway Dynamics alongside Brielle Weller, widow of the late engineer Cody Weller. A photo showed them together. Champagne glasses. Smiles. Her hand on Logan's chest. The wedding ring gone. Cody didn't speak. He didn't cry. He asked for a phone. No one brought one. 2 days later, he walked out of that hospital wearing someone else's hoodie and borrowed shoes. Hitchhiked. Hid. Slept in motels under a false name. Every piece of his life had been stolen. Car crash? Orchestrated. Property? Transferred. Company shares? Vanished. Name? Buried. Now he was alive, but legally dead. And if they thought he'd stay that way, they didn't know him at all. The first time he saw her again, she was wrapped in a silk dress, laughing under gold lights at a downtown gala. Brielle. No one called her that anymore. The society pages listed her as Brielle Harwood, partner of Logan Harwood, son of tech magnate Darren Harwood. She stood like she belonged in that world. Champagne flutes, velvet ropes, private elevators. She used to hate those people. Now she was one of them. Cody stayed in the shadows, across the street in a hoodie and ball cap. He watched through the glass as she leaned into Logan, whispering something in his ear. Logan laughed, cocky and careless. The man didn't even glance over his shoulder. Why would he? Cody was supposed to be dead. Inside, the press snapped photos of Harwood's power couple. On cue, Brielle smiled into the camera and kissed Logan on the cheek. Flashbulbs burst like fireworks. Applause followed. Cody didn't blink. He noticed details others wouldn't. The way she adjusted her necklace twice. Nervous. The way Logan downed his second glass faster than the first. Tense. They were celebrating something big tonight. Cody knew better than to move fast. He needed eyes inside. Information. Leverage. He took a photo. Not of them, but of the guest list taped to the valet podium. Names. Allies. Connections. Then he turned and disappeared into the alley. They'd taken everything from him. But they didn't take his memory. They didn't take his patience. And they sure as hell didn't take his ability to destroy them slowly. Cody had built Kingsway Dynamics with his bare hands. From the first prototype in a storage unit to government contracts, he'd sacrificed weekends, birthdays, even his marriage at times, just to keep the company alive. Now his name wasn't even listed on the corporate site. The office he designed, glass walls, clean steel, his dream, was now remodeled. Logan sat in the chair that once belonged to him, grinning during interviews about the future of innovation. What future? Cody's patents were live. His work funded the company's leap into military-grade automation. Now the files were marked property of Harwood Holdings. He'd started digging quietly, using a burner laptop in a motel off the interstate. An old friend from the accounting department, a night owl named Russo, still had a conscience. When Cody reached out anonymously, Russo didn't ask questions, just sent the files. Transfers, signatures, power of attorney. Filed days after Cody's crash. Brielle's signature was on every one. She'd gained access through his end-of-life directive. There had never been a directive. She didn't even wait a week. Cody scrolled through the documents in silence, his jaw tightening. Every line read like a knife. When he got to the last file, a property transfer for the lake house he'd bought for their anniversary, he stared at it for a long time. Brielle had sold it to a shell company, then moved in with Logan. The bedroom they'd once painted together now belonged to the man who replaced him. Cody didn't rage. He just shut the laptop, leaned back against the motel wall, and stared at the ceiling. He wouldn't just take it back. He'd make sure they regretted ever thinking he was gone. The crash report was clean. Too clean. No tire marks. No witness statements. No investigation. It read like a form letter. Single car collision. Likely due to mechanical failure. Driver presumed dead due to total combustion. But Cody remembered. The sharp turn. The brakes going dead. The SUV that came out of nowhere, headlights off. The way his steering locked a second before impact. Somebody had planned this. He went back to the road that night. Same spot. Same curve. The burn marks were still on the tree line. Faint. Almost washed away by time and rain. But there. He stood at the edge of the crash site, breathing in the cold air. Wind moved the leaves like whispers. Then he noticed the camera. A small, motion-triggered wildlife cam strapped to a tree. Someone had forgotten it. He followed the tree line to a local ranger station. The old man behind the desk squinted at him. "You a hunter?" "No," Cody replied. "Just curious about that accident a few months back. Near Ridgepoint Bend." The ranger scratched his beard. "Oh, that fireball crash? Yeah, strange one. You law enforcement?" "No. Family." The ranger hesitated, then opened a dusty file drawer. When Cody walked out an hour later, he had a flash drive in his pocket. Back at the motel, he plugged it in. The footage loaded slow, but clear. One SUV followed his car. A second one blocked the road ahead. No plates. The moment he swerved, something sparked under the frame, an explosion. His brakes hadn't failed. Someone had killed him on purpose. And whoever they were, they wanted him buried not just in fire, but in silence. At 2:37 a.m., Cody stood barefoot in the motel bathroom, staring at his reflection. Alive. Scar on his jaw. Eyes sharper than ever. The fire hadn't taken him, but everything else had. He opened the medicine cabinet. Taped inside was a printed photo, Brielle and Logan on a yacht, laughing under sunset light. He'd placed it there for one reason. To remember. Not to grieve. Not to suffer. To fuel him. The plan didn't start with violence. It started with presence. First, he slipped into the company's server. Russo gave him a backdoor passcode buried in the old engineer archives. Cody logged in from a remote network cafe in the city. No face, no ID, just access. He downloaded key files, project specs, email logs, financial audits. Then he found the gold surveillance archives from Kingsway HQ. Most people forget security footage lives on backup drives. One folder was flagged for deletion, labeled Conference Room, Day of Signing. He clicked. There she was, Brielle, smiling, pouring champagne, the pin in her hand. "Are you sure no one will contest this?" Logan asked in the video. "No one left to contest it," she replied. "He's gone. And even if he wasn't, he can't prove a thing." Cody paused the video mid-frame. Her eyes were gleaming, cold, certain. He copied the file to a USB, labeled it Asset 1. Then he burned it to a second drive and mailed it to a safe location. This was just the beginning. They thought they'd buried him. But he learned something in the fire. If you burn a man and he still walks, you should run. Cody had once heard his father say, "The easiest people to destroy are the ones who think they're untouchable." That line echoed as he watched Logan and Brielle from across the street, sipping overpriced coffee at an outdoor cafe. Midtown. Mid-morning. She wore designer sunglasses. He wore a smug grin and a tailored blazer like he owned the street. They looked invincible. But Cody had learned how to look past appearances. And what he saw now wasn't confidence. It was overcompensation. Logan shifted in his chair every few minutes, constantly checking his phone. Brielle's laugh had no soul in it. It cracked at the edges like glass under pressure. He couldn't hear them, but he didn't need to. Their body language told him everything. They were nervous. Why? Because strange things had started happening. Anonymous emails with cryptic lines like, "You buried him too fast." A bouquet of lilies, his funeral flowers, delivered to their penthouse with no note. A flash drive left on their doorstep with a looping video of the crash site. All silent moves. All from Cody. He was studying them like prey, when they ate, when they moved, who they spoke to, mapping their routine. The more he watched, the more he realized they weren't just guilty. They were scared. And scared people make mistakes. Across the street, Brielle touched Logan's arm and said something that made his face go pale. He stood too fast, knocking his chair back. They left in a hurry. Cody stayed seated on the bench, pulling a worn notebook from his coat pocket. He flipped to a new page and wrote their names again. Then, beneath them, a single word, cracks. Kingsway Dynamics looked different now. It wasn't the building. It was the energy. Before, it had been efficient, sharp, built on discipline. Now it was nervous, bloated. Too many interns in suits pretending they knew what they were doing. Cody watched from the parking garage's upper deck, eyes locked on the loading entrance. And then he saw him, Russo. Same hunched posture, same coffee stain on his ID badge. But now he looked like a man waiting to explode. Russo had kept Cody's secret. When Cody first reached out anonymously, he could have forwarded the message to HR. Instead, he answered with 2 words. "I knew." That day, Cody left a dead-drop envelope in Russo's gym locker, handwritten notes, password access, and a burner phone. It was enough to rebuild a bridge. Now, Russo walked toward a black sedan in the far corner of the lot. Cody stepped out of the shadows. Russo froze, eyes wide. Then he whispered, "Jesus, man. You really did it. You're alive." Cody nodded once. "I need more. Real time. Everything you can access." Russo looked around. "You're gonna blow this wide open, aren't you?" "Not yet," Cody said. "They're not ready to fall." Russo hesitated. "You sure you're not here to just wreck it all?" "I'm here to end it," Cody replied. "But I need the truth first." Russo handed over a thumb drive. "This has everything on Logan's promotion timeline. It doesn't add up." He cut corners. Fake reports. Some people were paid off to keep quiet. Cody pocketed the drive. "This isn't about revenge anymore," Russo muttered. "Is it?" Cody's stare didn't waver. "It's about justice. And cleaning the rot." Then he turned and vanished, leaving Russo shaking beside the car. The USB buzzed faintly as Cody loaded it into the stolen laptop. Inside, timestamps, project reports, security clearance approvals, all backdated to make Logan look like a technical genius. But Cody knew better. Logan couldn't even code his own email signature. He scrolled through internal communications. A message caught his eye. Subject: confidential, signing ceremony video file from Brielle Harwood to Logan Harwood. Delete the damn file. If this ever leaks, we're done. The same video he'd already saved to Asset 1. But now he had proof they both knew it was incriminating. He added it to a private digital vault, offshore, mirrored, and protected by 6 layers of encryption. Russo had helped set it up. Cody wasn't just collecting evidence. He was building pressure. People would start to panic long before the explosion. He sent a package that night, unmarked. No return address. It arrived at Logan's office the next morning, an exact replica of Cody's old company ID badge and a handwritten note. Wrong man in the chair. Logan's assistant found him pacing 10 minutes later, muttering under his breath, sweat on his collar. He canceled his afternoon meetings. Cody watched from across the street, leaning against a streetlight in a delivery uniform. He didn't smile, didn't flinch, just watched as Logan locked the office door behind him, blinds drawn. The fear was working. The guilt was surfacing. But Cody wasn't ready to strike. He still had pieces to move. Still had one more asset to flip. The one person who'd been hiding in plain sight, caught between 2 worlds. And she didn't even know it yet. Cody hadn't returned to the lake house since the crash. The place that once held dreams now held secrets. He arrived just before sunset, staying off the main road. The driveway cameras had been rerouted by him 2 nights ago. Harwood security wouldn't even get a blip. The gate was still engraved with the initials C and B. Brielle never bothered to remove them. He entered through the back deck. Same creaky board by the step. Same scent of pine and lake water. But everything else had changed. Wine bottles on the kitchen island. Logan's watch on the counter. Brielle's heels scattered by the couch. Cody moved with purpose. He didn't flinch when he passed the bedroom. He opened the office, his old workspace. What once held love letters and invention sketches now had cold white walls and a locked drawer. He picked it open. Inside was a shoebox. Photos. Him and Brielle. Vacations. Anniversaries. And one picture that made him stop cold. A copy of the ultrasound. His name was scratched off in ink. A second photo underneath. Brielle with Logan at a maternity gala. Her hand on her stomach. The math didn't work. That child, his daughter, was born 6 months after the divorce was finalized. She wasn't Logan's. Cody felt the room tilt, the rage crawl up his throat, but he kept still. The last photo in the box. His daughter's crayon drawing. Dated last week. It showed her standing beside a man labeled Daddy. Alive. Cody didn't cry. He simply folded the drawing, placed it in his coat pocket, and walked out into the night. They had taken almost everything. But they didn't take his daughter. Cody knew his face was a liability now. One photo, one ID check, one casual recognition, and everything he'd built would vanish. So he became a ghost in the city he once ruled. He rented a room in a forgotten building on the edge of town. No neighbors. Paid in cash. No questions. Each morning, he wore different clothes. Took different buses. Ate at diners where nobody looked up. He didn't exist. And yet, he saw everything. From public records, he found out Brielle and Logan had tried to legally adopt his daughter under Logan's name. The petition had been delayed due to documentation gaps. Cody had never officially died, just presumed. The mistake kept the court stalled. That window was all he needed. He filed an anonymous challenge under a pseudonym. Through a third-party lawyer, quietly. No courtroom drama, just paperwork. But it made noise. Enough to rattle Brielle. 2 days later, she stormed into Kingsway HQ, yelling about someone trying to steal our rights. Cody watched the security footage from Russo's feed. Her composure cracked in front of everyone. That same afternoon, Logan received another package. Inside, a copy of the ultrasound photo with a sticky note. Whose name was on the original? Logan didn't show anyone. But he fired his personal assistant that night. Paranoia had set in. Cody made himself small, invisible, forgettable. But every time they thought they were safe, he'd whisper through a crack in the wall. He wasn't hunting them with bullets. He was gutting them with silence. A gala. Again, Brielle and Logan had become addicted to appearances, forcing to lie louder every time they feared someone might hear the truth. This one was hosted by Harwood's own philanthropic arm, a fundraiser for future innovators. Red carpet, speeches, wine. Cody entered through the catering team. No one noticed the new hire in the pressed shirt and black apron. He moved like a man who belonged. He caught glimpses of them, Brielle in silver, Logan in navy, plastic smiles, nervous hands. Then he saw her, his daughter, in a white dress, holding Brielle's hand, eyes scanning the crowd with quiet curiosity. Cody stayed in the shadows, close enough to hear Brielle whisper to her daughter, "Don't talk to anyone you don't know tonight, okay? But what if I see Daddy again?" Cody nearly dropped the wine tray. Brielle froze, pulled the girl aside, whispered something sharp into her ear. But the damage was done. Logan glanced around, jumpy, looking for faces that didn't belong. They knew. Someone was in the room. Cody slipped into the hallway, out of uniform, into a jacket stashed earlier. On the way out, he dropped a gift-wrapped box at the gala check-in desk. It was addressed to Logan Harwood. Inside, a voice recorder. On it, the audio from Brielle's "He Can't Prove a Thing" recording, looped, edited, layered under music. Nothing public. Just haunting. He didn't need to scream. He just needed them to unravel themselves. One mistake at a time. "We just hit 3,000 subscribers, and that's all because of you. Every single sub makes a difference. It's what keeps this going. So if you're vibing with the content, hit that subscribe button right now. Be part of this journey, not just a silent watcher." Oh, and before we dive back in, tell me, where are you tuning in from? Drop it in the comments. Pause right here, amazing listeners. Quick reality check. You're here, enjoying the content, but have you actually subscribed yet? Most people don't, even when they love what they're watching. Crazy, right? All right, let's continue the story. The restaurant was high-end, quiet, and dimly lit, the kind of place where deals were sealed and secrets were passed beneath linen napkins. Cody sat 2 tables away from Logan and Brielle. They hadn't noticed him. He was dressed sharp this time. Clean shave, tailored jacket. But the maitre d' didn't recognize him. His name wasn't Cody Weller tonight. It was Thomas Cade, and his reservation had been made through a Shell account. He sipped water, eyes forward, ears open. Logan swirled wine. His smile was forced. "We need to lock this deal next week. My father's breathing down my neck." Brielle shifted uncomfortably. "I'm trying, but the media is sniffing again. They're asking questions." Cody didn't look at them. He didn't have to. Their reflections danced clearly in the glass wall behind the bar. "She brought up Cody again," Brielle muttered. Logan leaned in. "Who?" "The girl." Cody's hand tightened on the glass. "She said he was outside her school. I checked the cameras. Nothing. I think she's imagining it. She's a kid. Probably just dreaming." "He was cremated," Brielle said. "There's nothing left. He can't be out there." Logan nodded. "Then we stick to the story." Cody left a few minutes later. Quiet. Unseen. On the way out, he dropped a sealed envelope on the hostess stand. Inside, a printed still from the gala, taken from the corner of a surveillance camera. In the image, Cody, blurred but unmistakably alive, standing in the background behind their daughter. No note. No threat. Just a ghost reminding them he was closer than they thought. Kingsway Dynamics wasn't just stolen, it was laundered. Cody sat across from Russo in a dim parking garage, files spread across the hood of his car. "The share transfer wasn't legal," Russo whispered. "They used a secondary trust, a shell company owned by Harwood Global. Technically, they never transferred your assets. They declared you dead and absorbed them." Cody flipped through the papers. "And no one questioned it?" Russo sighed. "A few people did. HR director, compliance officer. Both were paid off. One resigned. The other took a sudden vacation to Belize. And no one's heard from him since." "Logan didn't do this alone," Cody said. Russo shook his head. "No. His father orchestrated the entire thing." Cody's eyes narrowed. Darren Harwood. Brielle had never liked Darren. Said he was cold, controlling. But now she played happy daughter-in-law to the man who signed the order to erase Cody from the board. Russo handed him a flash drive. This is the full audit trail. It's dirty, man. Offshore accounts, fake invoices, massive tax fraud. If this gets out, Cody slid the drive into his coat. It will, but not yet. He needed the final piece. Darren Harwood didn't just steal his company. He turned Cody's death into profit. Now, Cody had a direct path to take him down, not with fists, but with numbers. Paper trails, government enforcement, public disgrace. The game was no longer just about revenge. It was about legacy. And Cody was about to remind them all whose name built that empire. Cody found her office on the second floor of a quiet brick building in the Upper West Side. Dr. Hensley, licensed trauma specialist. Brielle had gone to her during the grieving period. Cody had tracked the appointments through insurance records Russo quietly retrieved. He didn't want to hurt the therapist. He just wanted the truth. So he waited until evening, knocked once, and entered with a calm smile and an envelope in hand. Inside, a court-sealed request. Fake, but convincing. Dr. Hensley blinked. Are you with law enforcement? No. I'm the man your client said was dead. She froze. My name's Cody Weller. I'm not here to threaten you. I just want to hear the truth for myself. It took her 5 minutes to believe him, and then she let him listen. Brielle's voice poured through the office speakers in a calm, calculated tone. Sometimes I wonder if he knew the crash was coming. He always checked his brakes. Always. But I guess when you're tired, you miss things. Pause. Logan says not to talk about it, but the guilt eats at me. Not about Cody, about how fast I moved on. Maybe it makes me look heartless, but life moves forward, doesn't it? Another pause. I needed that company. I needed to feel like I had something of my own. He never let me in, so I took it. Cody listened in silence. Dr. Hensley whispered, You know I can't release these. You don't have to, Cody said, standing. I already have what I came for. As he left, he handed her another envelope. Inside, a check, large enough to fund her clinic for 2 years. Sometimes truth didn't need to be leaked. It just needed to be heard by the man who lost everything. The name was Jerome Calder, Kingsway's former lead engineer. Quiet, brilliant, fired without warning 6 weeks after Cody's crash. The official reason? Breach of confidentiality. Cody knew better. He found Jerome at a community robotics lab on the edge of the city, teaching night classes to underfunded high schoolers. The man looked older now, thinner, eyes carrying a bitterness that never left the surface. Cody didn't reveal himself at first, just observed. On the third night, he walked in as the class ended. Jerome looked up, went pale. Jesus Christ, I'm not a ghost, Cody said quietly. Jerome shut the door, locked it, sat down like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. They said you were dead. I know what they said. They buried you to take the patents. You know that, right? They used your death to fast-track new weapons deals. Cody nodded. Jerome pulled a manila folder from a metal drawer. I kept it. All of it. Couldn't live with it on my conscience. Blueprints. Memos. Timestamped data logs. Internal approvals that bypassed Cody's sign-off. All sent through Logan's email, with Brielle listed in CC. They made me sign an NDA after firing me. Told me if I spoke, I'd lose everything. You already did, Cody said. Jerome smiled bitterly. Yeah, I guess you did too. Cody reached into his coat, pulled out a document. I just started a new company. Need a lead engineer. Jerome blinked. You serious? Dead serious. Jerome took the folder back. Then let's burn the whole goddamn thing down. The penthouse looked like a showroom, marble floors, tall windows, furniture that screamed taste but whispered cold. Cody had eyes in it now. A private cleaner named Lexi, hired by Harwood Enterprises but loyal only to her next paycheck. She didn't ask who Cody was. He paid double and told her one thing. Record everything. She did. The footage came in daily, low-res but clear. In one clip, Brielle paced the master bedroom in silk. You need to get rid of the lawyer. She's asking too many questions. Logan sat at the edge of the bed, shirt half-buttoned, drink in hand. You're paranoid. No. I'm careful, Brielle snapped. Cody's death certificate isn't valid. We never got it notarized. If he's alive, he's not. And if he is? Logan slammed the glass down. Then we'll deal with it. You said that last time. Pause. Then Brielle's voice dropped lower. And if we can't, there's always the lake. Cody paused the video, rewound it. There's always the lake. He knew what that meant. That lake had already been his grave once. They were ready to dig it again. He sent the clip to 3 places that night. An anonymous tip box at the city prosecutor's office, a secured cloud drive only Jerome could access, and one last copy to his safe house vault. Just in case. Brielle wasn't just complicit anymore. She was dangerous. And this time, if she tried to bury him again, he'd make sure she was the one who didn't come back up. Numbers never lied. Cody knew that better than anyone. And the deeper he followed the trail, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a power grab. It was an empire built on theft. With Russo's access and Jerome's data cache, Cody uncovered a hidden subnetwork inside Kingsway's accounting systems. Off-the-books shell payments. Slush funds funneled through research grants that never existed. And at the center, a name, Kenton Reese, an external financial consultant, officially listed as a compliance advisor. Unofficially, the man who made fraud legal. Cody set up a meet. They sat in the corner of a jazz bar, soft music and shadows masking the tension. Kenton was mid-50s, sharp-suited, eyes cold. He didn't blink much. You're a dead man, Kenton said casually. Or at least, you're supposed to be. Cody leaned in. I don't need your fear. I need your file. You backdated the wire transfers. You set up the trust. That makes you an accessory. Kenton smirked. And what do you plan to do with that? Cody slid a small drive across the table. This goes to the IRS. Unless I get every account, every name, every password. Kenton stared at it, then smiled. All right, he said. Let's burn them all. Cody didn't smile back. He just picked up his glass and raised it halfway. To truth, he said. Kenton laughed once. To leverage. Either way, the system that buried Cody was about to collapse from the inside. And it would start with the numbers. The courthouse was quiet that morning. Rain hit the glass like ticking clocks, soft, steady, deliberate. Cody watched from the mezzanine as a clerk carried the sealed envelope into the records office. Inside that envelope, his original will, the one with his true signature, filed under a pseudonym the day before his wedding, back when he still trusted Brielle but didn't trust the world. She never knew it existed. Russo had found it buried in old archives and signed digitally but registered and witnessed, legally binding. It made Cody the sole owner of his intellectual property, executor of his own estate, and guardian of any heirs. The copy Brielle and Logan used to take over his assets? Forged. He watched the paper trail shift in real time. One system ticked over. One file updated. The system officially recognized the prior will, which nullified the fraudulent one. Then, Cody walked out the door without a word. Across town, Brielle got a call from her lawyer mid-brunch. Witnesses would later say her face dropped instantly, like something had snapped behind her eyes. Ma'am, your ownership of Kingsway has been challenged. There's a will on record. One you never mentioned. She spilled her wine. Logan was still chewing toast when she said it out loud. He's not dead. The restaurant fell quiet around them. No one else understood. But Cody did. Because that was the moment they realized their kingdom was built on a lie. And it had just been erased. The elementary school sat behind a stone wall and an iron gate. Cody stood across the street, hidden in the flow of parents and passers-by, just another figure beneath a cap and coat. He watched as the kids poured out in lines, laughing, shouting, chasing one another. And then he saw her. Elena, his daughter. She looked older, taller. Brown hair pulled into a ponytail. Same dimple on the right cheek. She held a sketchbook against her chest and waited quietly by the curb for her nanny. She didn't look like Logan. She looked like him. Cody didn't move. He couldn't. His knees were locked. His throat clenched. Then she glanced up. Just for a second. Their eyes met. And she smiled. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't fear. It was recognition. She took a step forward. Her lips parted like she might say something. Then a voice behind her. Elena, sweetie. Stay close. The nanny. She took her hand and led her toward the car. Elena looked back once more, still smiling. Cody stepped away from the gate and vanished down the block. That smile followed him for hours. Later that night, Russo called. They're freaking out. Logan called an emergency board meeting. He's trying to freeze accounts. Cody didn't answer right away. He stared at Elena's drawing on his motel wall. He'd scanned it and printed it, just like she'd drawn it. Daddy. Alive. He finally said, let them panic. Because this time, he wasn't fighting for his name. He was fighting for hers. The Kingsway boardroom had been bulletproof for years, sealed behind NDAs, insider loyalties, and fat bonuses. No one challenged leadership. No one questioned Logan. Until today, Cody wasn't in the building, but his shadow was. Anonymous emails had hit every board member's inbox that morning. Financial fraud timelines, backdated patent changes, recordings of Logan discussing, burying the evidence. The real, well, everything. No threats. No demands. Just facts. The board meeting went sideways before it even started. Half the members walked in pale. One refused to sit. Logan tried to maintain control, offering explanations, deflecting blame. It's a targeted smear campaign, he said. A ghost story. But they'd seen the footage. His voice. Brielle's voice. Proof of fraud. Abuse of power. A fake death turned corporate asset grab. One member finally stood. If these are real, and they look real, we're liable for every signature we approved under false information. Logan stood too, sweaty and cornered. We can fix this. We can contain it. A pause. Then the words Cody had waited months to hear. This is bigger than you now. Outside, Russo sat in his car, listening via live tap from the conference mic. He sent Cody a single text. They're fracturing. Logan's done. Cody closed the message. And for the first time in over a year, he smiled. It wasn't just about the board. Cody needed Harwood's inner circle to implode from within. He already had their paranoia. Now he needed betrayal. Lexi, the house cleaner Cody had paid, sent him a new clip. Audio only. A dinner party at the penthouse, just 2 nights earlier. Wine flowing. Guests laughing. But behind closed doors, Brielle and Logan in the hallway. You need to shut up about it, Brielle hissed. I didn't say anything, Logan replied, slurring. They're loyal. My father handpicked them. They're not loyal to you. They're loyal to power. And right now, you're losing it. Silence. Then glass shattering. You think I wanted to marry you? She snapped. You were convenient, rich, and stupid enough to fake a will for me. You needed me, Logan said. I needed control. And now? I don't even have that. The audio ended there. Cody saved the file, then sent it anonymously to 3 board members. No context. No explanation. Just a simple subject line. Trust her? The response was faster than he expected. That morning, Logan's executive assistant quit without notice. The PR firm detached. Internal lawyers scheduled an urgent compliance review. Cody didn't need explosions. He needed cracks. Small ones. Pressure would do the rest. At a small diner that night, Russo slid a flash drive across the table. Harwood Global's legal team just filed paperwork to distance themselves from Logan. Even Darren's name is disappearing from internal memos. Cody nodded. The monster that tried to erase him was starting to eat itself alive. And all he had to do was keep feeding it. The last person Cody expected to hear from was his brother, Reed Weller, estranged, off the grid for years. Last they spoke, it was a shouting match over money, legacy, and their father's cold silence. But then Cody got the message. Meet me. 9 p.m., Pier 14. No questions. He went. Reed stood alone at the edge of the dock, beard longer now, wearing a faded army jacket. No greetings. Just an envelope. These are Dad's, Reed said. From his personal safe. I took them before they cleaned out his office. Why? Cody asked. Because I knew they were wrong. Even when I hated you, I knew. Inside the envelope, hand-signed letters, journal entries, and, most damning, a memo from Darren Harwood to Barrett Weller, offering a quiet severance buyout to disappear Cody's name from Kingsway permanently. Barrett never agreed. He died 2 weeks later. Heart attack, they said. But now? Now it looked like silence. Reed lit a cigarette with shaking hands. I should have said something sooner, but I thought you were dead. When I saw that video, he paused. You're not the only one they erased. Cody looked at him and nodded. You want in? Cody asked. Reed crushed the cigarette under his boot. I want to see them burn. They walked off the dock together, side by side. Not as brothers rebuilding, as survivors sharpening blades. The storm didn't come from the company. It came from the people. At 6:14 a.m., a video hit social media. Grainy, real, untouched. Brielle's voice laced with venom. I needed that company. I needed to feel like I had something of my own. He never let me in. So I took it. Tens of thousands of views and hours. Then the rest leaked. The forged documents. The therapist's tapes. The financial records. Every file Cody had spent months collecting, released. He didn't sign it. Didn't watermark it. He let the truth speak. By noon, Kingsway stock dropped 19%. By 2 p.m., Brielle's name trended on every platform with the word fraud beside it. Logan tried to hold a press conference. He lasted 4 minutes before walking off mid-question. Reporters shouted, Are the signatures real? Did you know he was alive? Where's Cody Weller now? But Cody wasn't on camera. He was on a rooftop nearby, watching it unfold. Russo stood beside him. You did it. No, Cody said. I steady. This is just the match. The fire's still coming. Below, chaos swirled. People screamed. Cameras clicked. And the empire they built on his grave was finally burning. The courtroom hadn't seen this much press in a decade. Kingsway Dynamics versus Logan Harwood and Brielle Harwood. Filed under corporate fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and wrongful estate seizure. And somewhere, under layers of sealed documents and last-minute motions, the name Cody Weller quietly re-entered the legal system. Cody didn't walk through the front doors that morning. He arrived early, through a private side entrance, escorted by his lawyer, a war-seasoned litigator named Avery Knox. Sharp suit. Sharper mouth. You understand once you're seen, Avery said. This isn't war in the shadows anymore. Cody nodded. It never was. Just waited for the right battlefield. Inside, Logan sat with his tie undone, face pale. Brielle beside him, hiding behind dark sunglasses, flinching every time the courtroom cameras flashed. They hadn't spoken publicly since the leak. They didn't expect what was coming next. The judge called the room to order. Lawyers exchanged motions. Reporters typed furiously behind the barrier. And then the courtroom doors opened. Cody stepped in. Heads turned. Gasps echoed. Logan stood instinctively, as if he'd seen a ghost. Cody walked calmly to the plaintiff's table and sat. The silence in the room felt like gravity shifted. A court clerk whispered to the judge. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mr. Weller, I assume this is no longer a probate dispute. No, Your Honor, Avery said. This is a reclamation. Cody's eyes never left Logan's. He wanted him to see it. He wanted him to feel it. The man you buried is alive. And now, he's here to take everything back. By noon, his face was everywhere. Cody Weller returns from the dead. Corporate coup exposed. Harwood Empire under fire. TV screens. News feeds. Hashtags. Podcasts. Everyone wanted the same answer. Where had he been? Cody didn't answer. Not yet. He let the facts speak. Let the fraud unravel. Let the world turn on the ones who used his name as a stepping stone. At Harwood Global, chaos reigned. Executives scrambled to distance themselves. PR teams quit mid-shift. Clients threatened to pull funding. And Darren Harwood, the kingmaker behind the curtain? Silent. Logan held a press briefing outside company HQ. The statement was short, rattled, desperate. There has been a misunderstanding. These attacks are coordinated. I stand by my wife and our vision for Kingsway's future. A reporter shouted from the front. How does it feel knowing the man you replaced is back in court reclaiming what you stole? Logan didn't answer. He turned, walked off. That clip alone hit 10 million views by midnight. Cody watched it all from a rooftop lounge with Avery and Russo. Now what? Russo asked. We wait, Cody said. They'll make more mistakes. They always do when they're scared. And right on cue, his phone buzzed. Private message. Unknown sender, you think it's over? You have no idea what you've started. DH. Cody stared at the message. No fear. Just fuel. You're next, he whispered. The shareholder meeting was packed. Every major investor had shown up in person. Security was doubled. Cameras lined the room. And in the front row, Darren Harwood himself, flanked by lawyers and his PR team. Cody stood behind the curtain, watching the stage. Avery leaned in. You don't have to speak. Yes, I do, Cody said. They need to see who they buried. At exactly 10 a.m., the host took the mic. We have a final speaker before the board votes on emergency leadership restructuring. A pause. Please welcome Mr. Cody Weller. Gasps. Whispers. Some stood. Some froze. Cody walked slowly to the podium. Every step felt like history dragging chains behind him. He looked out at the sea of polished suits and artificial faces. Then his eyes landed on Logan. Sweating. Shaking. Then Brielle. Cold. Hollow. And finally, Darren Harwood. Still. Cody gripped the mic. I was declared dead without an autopsy. Without a body. Without an ounce of truth. Click. Flash. Cameras everywhere. In my absence, my wife and this company's heir faked documents, stole assets, buried evidence, and rebranded legacy as conquest. No one moved. And now they're going to lose it all. He turned, pulled a drive from his coat pocket, and handed it to the board chair. Inside is every forged record, every offshore account, every lie they built this empire on. Verified. Time-stamped. Irrefutable. The chair took it. Cody faced the room again. This isn't revenge. This is reality. He stepped away from the mic. The room exploded in questions, flashes, and disbelief. But Cody was already walking off stage. Because when you rip off a mask, you don't wait around to see the tears underneath. I hope you've already subscribed to our channel. Your support truly means everything to me. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. So please drop your location in the comments below. I'm always excited to read your thoughts and interact with each of you personally. Keep spreading the positivity, and thank you so much for being a wonderful part of our community. Logan Harwood had always been good at looking confident, even when he wasn't, especially when he wasn't. But this morning, after Cody's speech, after the shareholders were given the flash drive, Logan wasn't acting anymore. He was unraveling. He burst into the executive suite, slamming the glass door hard enough to rattle the walls. Brielle trailed behind him, silent. They'll vote me out, Logan hissed. They're cowards. One speech and they fold. You made this mess, Brielle snapped. I told you not to push him out. You said he was dead. Logan turned on her. You said he couldn't come back. And you believed me, she shot back. The silence that followed wasn't just angry, it was the end of them. Across the room, a junior executive stood frozen with a clipboard. Get out. Logan barked. The kid fled. Logan grabbed a bottle from the shelf and poured 2 fingers of bourbon. It was 10 in the morning. Do you know what happens if they trigger a criminal probe? He muttered. You run, Brielle said flatly. He looked up. And what about you? I never signed the money transfers. You signed everything else. She didn't respond. He downed the drink. Then the boardroom door opened. A security officer stepped inside. Mr. Harwood, the board has requested your immediate removal pending investigation. You'll be escorted off the property. Logan laughed. Just once. Then his face broke, truly broke, for the first time. You think this ends with me? He said, glaring toward the hallway. But Cody was already gone, because Logan didn't matter anymore. He was just the first to fall. The Harwood estate had been built like a fortress, gated, manicured, dripping in power. But inside, the silence now felt like a funeral. Brielle stood in the sunroom, phone in one hand, glass of wine in the other. Her inbox had turned toxic. News alerts, termination notices, frozen assets, voicemails from lawyers who no longer answered her calls. Her reputation was scorched. She scrolled through comments under a viral video of her gala speech, one where she'd called Cody sweet, but never ambitious. Gold digger, witch in heels, built her kingdom on a body bag. Brielle set the wine down. Her hands trembled. A notification pinged. New message. Unknown sender. She opened it. A photo of her daughter at school. Safe. Smiling. Underneath. She'll know everything when the time's right. No threats. No violence. Just inevitability. She deleted the message but couldn't erase the chill in her bones. The doorbell rang. She flinched. It was her personal assistant, former assistant now, returning her house keys. No one wants to be near this mess, the girl muttered. They're calling you the next Elizabeth Holmes. Brielle didn't argue, didn't beg. She just nodded, then walked back to her empty living room, sat on the floor in silence, and stared at her wedding photo. The frame cracked. She hadn't even noticed when it fell, because everything else around her was already collapsing. The courtroom was smaller this time. No cameras, no reporters, just lawyers, records, and the judge. Cody sat on one side of the aisle, clean-cut, controlled, the father who had returned. Across from him, Brielle looked thinner, quieter. Her lawyer whispered in her ear. She didn't respond. The judge cleared her throat. We are here to determine custodial rights and potential modifications to the minor's guardianship structure. Cody didn't look at Brielle. He didn't need to. Instead, he looked only at the drawing he'd brought with him, Elena's sketch. The one with him labeled, Daddy. Alive. He laid it gently on the table before speaking. Your Honor, I didn't abandon my child. I was erased. Gasps weren't allowed in court, but even the clerk shifted. My accident wasn't an accident. My wife remarried before the dust settled. Changed my daughter's name. I've stayed silent until now. He handed over copies of medical records, legal documents, surveillance proof, and a notarized testimony from his treating doctor, the one who saw him alive weeks after the crash. Then he looked the judge in the eyes. I didn't come back for revenge. I came back because she still calls me Dad. The room was quiet. Even Brielle's lawyer didn't object. The judge nodded. Temporary full custody granted to the biological father. Visitation rights for the mother, pending review. Cody exhaled slowly. Outside the courtroom, Elena waited with Russo. She saw him and ran, her arms wide. Daddy. Cody knelt, hugged her tight, and for the first time in years, he felt whole. The federal courthouse downtown didn't have the elegance of corporate offices or marble gala halls. It was cold, honest, built for truth, and that's exactly why Cody chose it. The Department of Justice had opened its investigation into Harwood Global following Cody's evidence drop. Financial fraud, corporate theft, shareholder deception. The charges were real now. Not headlines. Not rumors. Statutes. The courtroom buzzed with media behind the glass. Darren Harwood sat stiff in a navy suit, eyes locked forward. Next to him, two defense attorneys whispered in low tones, but he ignored them. His face were calm, but the white of his knuckles betrayed the pressure. Cody sat behind the prosecution table, silent. His eyes never left Darren. A woman stepped onto the witness stand. Her name, Emily Rhodes, former compliance officer. She had vanished months after Cody's accident. No press. No records. Everyone thought she had taken a payout to disappear. But she hadn't. Cody had found her and brought her back. Emily sat tall, steady. The prosecutor's voice was clear. Ms. Rhodes, can you confirm when you first suspected corporate misconduct inside Harwood Global? 3 days after Mr. Weller's reported death, she said. And what did you discover? Emily lifted a folder. Altered internal filings. Asset movements. A sudden shift in board control. And the removal of Mr. Weller's proprietary access under the justification of his death before any legal confirmation. The room shifted. The defense tried to object. Overruled. And who authorized the shift? Emily didn't blink. Darren Harwood. Through a direct order. Darren's jaw moved slightly. But still, no words. Emily continued. I was told to either sign off on the retroactive compliance report or resign. You chose to resign? No, she said. I recorded the meeting. I chose to testify. Gasps filled the back of the court. The prosecutor nodded. We submit this recording to the court. The voice on the audio was clear. Darren Harwood, the dead can't file lawsuits, Emily. So let's bury the paperwork, too. Cody didn't flinch. Because he already knew. Now the world did, too. When Kingsway fell, it wasn't with an explosion. It was with a cascade of clicks. Accounts frozen. Projects canceled. Partners withdrawing funding by the hour. Cody stood in front of the stock ticker as Kingsway's value bled in real time. Red arrows. Down 41% in a single day. A historic drop. Brielle's face was plastered across news banners again, this time under words like fraud, insider conspiracy, coercion. But the real death knell came from across the ocean. The Swiss bank that had quietly handled Harwood's shell companies issued a statement confirming Cody's submitted documentation. Dozens of shadow accounts now frozen. $90 million, locked in digital ice. Cody had used Jerome's access codes to trace the wires. Reed had found the off-site storage that held old paper trails. And Emily's whistleblower evidence tied the strings in a knot. It was over. But Cody wasn't watching the news. He was in a courtroom hallway. Elena sat beside him, sketching again. Daddy, she said without looking up, are the bad people going away now? He looked down. They are. Good, she said. Can we go to the zoo next week? Cody smiled softly. Yeah, we can. The moment was small. But to Cody, it was the first breath of normal in over a year. Inside the courtroom, Darren's legal team scrambled. They knew what was next. An SEC investigation. Criminal charges. Civil lawsuits. It wasn't just a fall from grace. It was a complete implosion. And Cody? He didn't have to lift a single weapon. Just the truth. And the truth did what fire couldn't. It made the empire turn to ash. It was late when the phone rang inside the holding cell. Darren Harwood sat alone, still in his suit, though it now looked like a costume from another life. He picked up the receiver. Hello. The voice on the other end was clear. You tried to kill me. Silence. Then Darren exhaled slowly. I should have done it better. Cody's voice didn't shift. You killed my name, stole my company, used my wife, and sold my future. But here we are. Darren leaned forward, gripping the phone tighter. You think this is justice? You think a few courtrooms and headlines undo a legacy? Cody paused. No, but your legacy doesn't belong to you anymore. There was a beat. Then Darren laughed, soft, bitter. You were always the quiet one. The builder. The fixer. I should have buried you deeper. You built your kingdom on fraud, Cody said. And you thought it would hold. But rock can't carry weight forever. Outside the cell, a guard signaled. 1 minute. Cody's voice was lower now. Sharper. Your lawyers will run. Your name will turn poison. Your son's already broken. And your empire, he let it hang. Then finished, is mine again. Darren said nothing. Because there was nothing left to say. The line clicked. Cody stood in the shadows outside the building. Rain tapped the brim of his cap. He turned and walked into the night. Not as a man who won, but as a man who outlived the lie meant to erase him. And now, there was only one chapter left. The one where he let go. The press conference wasn't announced. It just happened. A live stream appeared on Harwood Global's official page. 30,000 viewers within minutes. A single podium. One man. Logan. Visibly shaken. Tie gone. Dark circles under his eyes. He cleared his throat, trying to look composed. The same man who once mocked Cody's lack of vision now stood like a deer in front of headlights. I want to speak the truth, Logan began, voice thin. Not the headlines. Not the spin. He paused, then looked into the camera. I didn't know Cody Weller was alive. I didn't orchestrate the crash. I didn't forge the will. That was my father. And Brielle. Cody watched from his office, expression unreadable. Logan continued, his voice cracking. I was part of the machine, but I wasn't the engine. I believed what I was told. I thought she loved me. That part hit harder than he meant it to. I know that doesn't absolve me. I know I'll face legal consequences. But this, he lifted a folder, this is everything my father kept from the board. From me. Offshore transfers. Slush accounts. Blackmail files. It's yours now. He left it at the podium. The feed ended. Cody leaned back in his chair. Not in victory. In silence. Because Logan had finally admitted it. Everything they built had been a lie. And sometimes, the truth didn't come from power. It came from collapse. A week later, Cody stood in front of a camera for the first time since the crash. This wasn't a courtroom. Not a leak. Not an ambush. This was intentional. A controlled press conference held in the very building where his name had once been erased. Kingsway Tower. Conference Hall A. He wore no tie. Just a black shirt and calm focus. The crowd was full, journalists, shareholders, staff, even former rivals. A hush swept the room as he stepped up to the mic. He looked straight ahead, into the lenses, into the eyes of millions. When they thought I was dead, they toasted. He let the silence hang. When they stole my work, they called it a pivot. Murmurs echoed softly. When they used my daughter's future as a bargaining chip, they called it a necessary evil. He leaned forward slightly. But now, I'm here. I'm not a ghost. I'm not broken. And I'm not going anywhere. Camera flashes lit the air. I didn't just return for justice. I returned to rebuild. Not Kingsway. That chapter is closed. He paused. I'm starting something new. And this time, it won't be built on fear, greed, or fraud. It'll be built the way it was always meant to be, on purpose. Applause. Not thunderous, but real. He held up a folder, one bearing a new logo. Weller Systems. Then, he ended with one last line. You can bury a name. You can forge a will. But truth. He smiled faintly. Truth has a way of showing up. Even at its own funeral. The verdict came in on a Tuesday. The courtroom was full, but you could hear a pin drop. Darren Harwood, guilty on all counts. Corporate fraud. Wire fraud. Obstruction of justice. Brielle, guilty of conspiracy, forgery, and custodial interference. Logan, plea deal, reduced sentence in exchange for full testimony. When the judge read the sentence, 15 years for Darren, 7 for Brielle, the reaction wasn't loud. It was relief. Brielle didn't speak as she was escorted out. No dramatic plea. No last words. Just silence. Logan watched from a bench in the hallway, head low, lawyers whispering behind him. Cody stood quietly beside his attorney. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. Because this moment wasn't for celebration. It was for closure. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Microphones stretched. Questions flew. But Cody only gave one statement. Justice doesn't erase pain. But it clears the path for healing. Then he stepped into the back seat of his car. Elena sat beside him. Are we done now? She asked softly. He looked at her. Then out the window, as the courthouse faded behind them. Almost. Because while the war was over, there were still pieces of his soul to pick up. And in the last 4 chapters, that's exactly what he'll do. The courthouse was quiet this time. No cameras. No crowds. Just Cody, Elena, and the final judge's order in a thick envelope beside him. It was official. Full, permanent custody. No more visitation negotiations. No more legal games. Brielle had signed the surrender herself, in orange prison-issued jumpsuit. Head down, no words. Cody hadn't looked at her. He hadn't needed to. Elena was beside him now, hands folded, swinging her legs gently beneath the wooden bench. She clutched her new sketchbook. Her drawings had changed. More color. More light. He noticed that. He noticed everything now. Outside, Russo waited in the car. Jerome had sent flowers. Avery had sent a note. Now go live. They're behind you. And maybe for the first time since the crash. Cody believed that. He glanced down at Elena's latest sketch. It showed the two of them, holding hands. Not just him as daddy, but her too, smiling. Whole. She looked up at him. Can we go home now? He nodded. Yeah. She hesitated. What's our home now? Cody didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood, took her hand, and led her toward the doors. "Wherever we want it to be," he finally said. And when they stepped into the daylight, the world felt different. It wasn't cold anymore. It was possible. Cody stood at the edge of the old Kingsway Tower. Not on the rooftop, not for drama, just outside the front doors. The place where he had once been erased by the people he trusted most. The logo had already changed. Weller Systems was etched into the glass now. Clean, modern, his. But he wasn't here for the company. He was here to walk through the front doors, not as a ghost, but as a man who came back stronger. The building buzzed. Inside, new staff, new energy, people building something honest. They knew who he was. They nodded respectfully as he passed. He didn't stop to bask, didn't linger in old offices or check where Logan used to sit. Instead, he entered a new wing, one he had designed during the rebuild. The Innovation and Ethics Lab named after his father, Barrett Weller. It wasn't a revenge monument. It was a promise that this legacy would be different. He walked through the glass corridor, sunlight pouring in. On the walls, photos of young engineers, grant winners, scholars. Some from underfunded schools. Some survivors of systems like the one that nearly destroyed him. Every face told a story. This was what they feared. Not his anger, but his clarity. They feared that he'd rise. They feared he'd rebuild. They feared that the man they tried to kill would return, not to destroy their world, but to create a better one. And that's exactly what he had done. As he left the building, he stopped only once, at the memorial wall where his old name was scratched off the founder plaque. Now, it was restored. Cody Weller, founder. Under it, a new line. Built once. Rebuilt better. The lake house had been empty for months. Cody unlocked the front door slowly, Elena standing beside him, clutching her backpack. The place smelled like old wood and memory. Dust clung to corners, but the foundation was still solid. Just like him. They walked through the house together room by room. The old fireplace. The scuffed hallway. The back porch that overlooked the still water. Cody paused there. It was the same view he had stared at when he first bought the place. Back when it was supposed to be a home for two people chasing forever. Now it was for something better. It was for healing. That night, he lit the fireplace and made grilled cheese sandwiches the way his mom used to. Elena picked the movie, some animated comedy he barely followed, but her laughter was real, and that was all he needed. After she fell asleep on the couch, sketchbook open beside her, Cody stepped outside. Stars above, silence below, and a strange feeling in his chest. Not pain, not anger, peace. He had won. But more than that, he had survived without becoming what they were. He didn't burn them to feel better. He burned the lie, so something honest could grow in its place. He looked down at Elena's drawing. It showed them in front of the lake house. But now there was one more person in the frame, his father. Smiling. No label. Just us. The last final chapter. Peace, finally. The letter came in the mail, handwritten. From a young engineer. 19 years old. Just accepted into Weller Systems' mentorship program. It read, "I watched your speech online. I used to think you had to be brutal to survive in this world. But then I saw you choose silence, patience, grace. You didn't fight dirty. You fought smart. Thank you for showing that power doesn't have to be loud. It can be kind." Cody held the letter for a long time. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. Later, as the sun rose over the lake, he walked the shoreline barefoot, feeling the ground beneath him. Elena waved from the dock, hair messy from sleep, her voice carrying across the water. "Dad, breakfast is ready." He turned back, smiled. This was it. Not revenge. Not war. This was what he came back for. Not to reclaim the past, but to protect the future. And now, to you, the one who walked every chapter of this story with him, what would you rebuild if everything you loved was stolen from you? Let us know in the comments and tell us, where are you watching from? We'd love to know who you are and how far this story reached. If this hit you hard. If you felt every twist, every betrayal, every breath of fire. Then show some love, like the story, subscribe to stay with us, and drop a comment below. Not just to support us, but to remind the world that real stories still matter. We'll see you in the next one, another thriller, another ride, another war worth watching. Until then, take care of your name, take care of your people, and take care of yourself. End of story.